I used to think Chihuahuas were just loud little dogs. Tiny, dramatic, a little annoying maybe. Then one came into my life, and I realized I was completely wrong. The first thing that surprised me wasn't his size. It was how intensely he watched me. Those huge, dark brown eyes followed everything. Every step, every movement, every change in my voice. If I stood up to get water, tiny footsteps followed. If I walked to the kitchen, he came too. Even the bathroom. Yes, even there. People called Chihuahuas Velcro dogs. I used to laugh at that. I thought it just meant they were clingy. But after living with one, I understand something much deeper. Your Chihuahua is not following you because they're needy. They're following you because in their world, you are safety itself. And that changes everything. Most people see a Chihuahua and notice only the obvious. Tiny body, tiny legs, tiny paws. But what they miss is the giant personality living inside. Behavioral research shows small companion breeds often stay highly alert because their size makes them naturally more vulnerable. A loud sound feels louder to them. A stranger feels scarier. The world feels bigger. So when a Chihuahua bonds with you, that bond becomes intense, deep, almost obsessive. They don't just love you. They build their emotional world around you. And maybe that explains something else most owners struggle with. Why does such a tiny dog act like the toughest creature in the neighborhood? My Chihuahua weighs barely 5 pounds. 5 pounds. And somehow, he genuinely believes he is the most dangerous creature in the neighborhood. The mailman? Suspicious. The neighbor's Labrador? A challenge. A motorcycle passing by? Potential enemy. The moment he hears something unusual, his ears go up, his body stiffens, his eyes lock in. Then comes the barking, loud, sharp, fearless. At first, I thought he was trying to act tough, like he had something to prove. But over time, I realized something important. He isn't barking because he thinks he's the boss. He's barking because his nervous system is screaming. I need to keep us safe. That's the part many people misunderstand about Chihuahuas. People call them aggressive, bossy, even dominant. But modern canine psychology tells a different story. Most reactive behavior in small dogs isn't about dominance at all. It's about vulnerability. Think about it. When you live in a tiny body, the world feels enormous. Every footstep sounds heavier. Every stranger looks bigger. Every threat feels closer. So your Chihuahua does what many vulnerable creatures do. They go big. Very big. Your Chihuahua isn't trying to dominate the world. They're trying to survive it. And maybe that's why their courage feels so incredible. Because underneath all that dramatic barking lives a tiny warrior who truly believes protecting you is worth everything. But that fierce loyalty comes with another side most owners know very well. Possessiveness, attachment, and yes, jealousy. If a Chihuahua chooses you, you'll know. Because they don't love halfway. They love with intensity, with devotion, with their whole tiny heart. Mine has a favorite spot, my lap. The moment I sit down, he appears like magic. One small jump, a tiny spin. Then he curls into a warm little ball. Sometimes he just stares at me. Those huge eyes. Quiet, focused, almost human, as if he's saying, "You're mine." And then there's the jealousy. Oh yes, the jealousy. Try petting another dog, just once. Watch what happens. Mine suddenly appears from nowhere. He squeezes between us, puts one paw on my arm, and gives me that look. Excuse me, that attention belongs to me. Most people laugh and call it drama, and yes, Chihuahuas can be dramatic, but beneath that behavior, there's something deeper. Behavioral experts have observed that Chihuahuas often form extremely exclusive bonds with one primary person. That bond can become so strong, even small shifts in your attention feel threatening. Your Chihuahua isn't jealous because they're spoiled. They're jealous because losing your attention can feel like losing safety. And for a dog, this emotionally attached, that feels terrifying, which explains something else many owners struggle with. The barking when you leave, the waiting by the door, the anxious pacing. Because when you are their whole emotional world, distance feels bigger, silence feels louder, and loneliness feels heavier. Your Chihuahua doesn't just live with you, they emotionally synchronize with you. Your mood becomes their weather. And maybe that's why even something as simple as taking out a sweater can suddenly make them explode with joy. Now let's talk about something Chihuahua owners know very well. The fashion obsession. Tiny sweaters, tiny hoodies, tiny jackets, tiny everything. And somehow, many Chihuahuas absolutely love it. Mine knows exactly what happens when I open the drawer with his clothes. Before I even touch the sweater, he already starts spinning, jumping, running in circles, tiny paws tapping across the floor like a drum roll, pure excitement. At first, I thought it was just funny. Then I learned something important. Chihuahuas get cold much faster than larger dogs. Their tiny bodies lose heat quickly. Less body mass, less insulation. That means warmth matters a lot. So no, your Chihuahua isn't wearing a sweater just to look cute. They may actually feel safer and more comfortable in it. And then, there's food. Oh, food. This tiny dog can eat with the passion of a creature 10 times its size. Chicken? Gone. Cheese? Gone. A small snack you accidentally dropped? Gone before it touches the floor. And the begging face. That face should be illegal. Big eyes, tiny head tilt. One paw gently reaching toward you. Emotional manipulation? Not exactly. Survival instinct? Much closer. Small dogs evolved to be highly food motivated because consistent energy intake matters more when your body is tiny. But this creates a problem. Weight gain happens fast, very fast. One extra treat here, one extra bite there, and suddenly those tiny joints carry too much weight. Your Chihuahua isn't begging because they're greedy. They're following an instinct that says food means safety. Which means loving a Chihuahua sometimes requires something difficult. Boundaries. Even when those eyes make your heart melt. Because beneath all that confidence, all that attitude, there's still a tiny body depending on you to protect it. Living with a Chihuahua teaches you something unexpected. Patience. A lot of patience. Because Chihuahuas are smart. Very smart. Sometimes. A little too smart. Mine knows every basic command. Sit, stay, come, wait. Problem? He also knows. He has options. I've seen him look directly at me after a command. Not confused. Not distracted. Just thinking. Do I want to? That's when many owners make a mistake. They assume small dogs need less training, but the opposite is often true. Intelligent dogs need structure, they need consistency, they need trust. And trust rarely grows through fear. Modern reward-based training has shown something powerful. Dogs learn best when they feel safe enough to think, not when they feel scared enough to obey. Your Chihuahua isn't being difficult just to challenge you. Sometimes, They're testing whether the world feels safe enough to relax. And then there's something even easier to forget, because this breed hides it so well. Under all that courage, they are incredibly fragile. Tiny bones, tiny joints, tiny frame, a jump from the couch, a rough grab, one accidental step in the dark. That's all it can take. And that's the Chihuahua paradox. Inside, a fearless warrior. Outside, a body that needs protection every single day. They act invincible, but they trust you to notice what they cannot protect alone. To be gentle, to be patient, to be careful. Because sometimes the bravest souls live in the smallest bodies. Living with a Chihuahua changes your home in ways you never expect. The silence disappears. The calm routines you once had, gone. In their place comes something else. Energy, drama, chaos, laughter, so much laughter. A tiny apartment suddenly feels alive. Every room has movement, every routine has company. Even ordinary moments feel different. Making coffee in the morning, watching television at night, walking to the kitchen for no reason at all. You're no longer alone. There's always a tiny shadow nearby, watching, following, waiting. And maybe that's what makes this breed so special. A Chihuahua doesn't just share your home. They share your life. They notice when your energy feels heavy. They notice when your voice sounds tired. They notice when you're hurting, even when nobody else does. I've seen mine during difficult days. Days when I said nothing. Days when I wanted space. He didn't bark. He didn't demand anything. He simply came closer. Then sat beside me, quietly, as if he understood everything. That's when I truly understood Chihuahuas. They are not for everyone. They demand patience, boundaries, understanding. Some people want an easy dog. This may not be that dog. But for the right person, a Chihuahua becomes unforgettable. They may be tiny, but their loyalty feels enormous. Their love feels overwhelming. Their presence fills spaces far bigger than their bodies ever could. Your Chihuahua isn't just a small dog with a big attitude. They are a tiny heart, loving with impossible intensity. If your Chihuahua has ever followed you from room to room, comment 1 below. I'd love to know how many Velcro dogs are watching with us today. Because sometimes, the smallest dog leaves the biggest mark on your heart.